Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Talamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pasatyade Satarane Om Aganatamilandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Taksu Samilitan Jena Tatsmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Nipakadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Trubhischa Kripa Sindhuve Vacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. Where is he? Yeah. That was wonderful. So much of the glories of Srimati Radharani that we heard compressed into one verse. That wasn't the verse I suggested, was it?
This verse is supposed to be Adi Lila.
Yeah. Anyway.
Chapter 4.
Yes. Let's see, but that's not what I wanted. Excuse me for a moment, please. '82 and '83.
82. This is 82.
Maybe we have different books.
Oh, Madhya Lila, Adi Lila. Take out the Adi Lila.
Yeah.
Adi Lila
Yeah.
chapter 4.
Yeah. And also it has to be small enough so we could see it. Big enough so we can see it, and small enough so we can see the whole thing at once. I wanted to read from Adi Lila chapter 4 of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, is the postgraduate study of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, who has written this, he's heard from, he actually got the blessings of Nityananda Prabhu. And by the blessings of Nityananda Prabhu, he went to Brindavan. Nityananda Prabhu, thank you, this one will be sufficient. Yeah. No? Below? Yeah, yes. Okay, now we'll survive for Krishna. No, one is sufficient. Nityananda Prabhu blessed him for chastising his own brother who failed to respect the servant of Nityananda Prabhu. So there's obviously a philosophical point in there. His brother didn't have faith in Nityananda Prabhu. He had faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was doing a Nama Yajna in his home. But he didn't have faith in Nityananda Prabhu. And that faithlessness in Nityananda Prabhu caused him to not have faith in a servant of Nityananda Prabhu, who was named Minakita Ramdas. And interestingly enough, he was, there was a pujari who was worshipping the deity. And when Minikita Ramdas came, he failed to give him respect. He was worshipping the Lord. But what is going to please the Lord is when the Lord devotee is worshipped or respected. So because he didn't respect the servant and of Nityananda Prabhu, because he didn't have respect himself for Nityananda Prabhu, and his brother also was in the same category, so Krishna chastised him. And because of that chastisement, that night he had a dream. And in that dream, he was told by Nityananda Prabhu, and the description that Kaviraj Goswami gives is something extraordinary of how Nityananda Prabhu appeared to him, and he was so beautiful. And he said, go to Brindavan, go to Brindavan, because in Brindavan you will achieve all things. Your deepest desires will be fulfilled. And then Krishnadas, having received that dream and received the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, he immediately, upon waking, he immediately left for Brindavan. And then in the 7th chapter of Adi Lila, Kaviraj Goswami describes how he achieved all things. And all things came through association. He associated with Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. He associated with the great devotees. He associated with Raghunath Das Goswami. And because Raghunath Das Goswami was directly serving by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, Raghunath Das Goswami was serving Sarup Damodar Goswami, who was with Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira and watching Mahaprabhu fully exhibit the ecstasies of separation of Srimati Radharani. He was fully experiencing the mood, the bhava of Srimati Radharani when she was missing Krishna, where the ocean of her love for Krishna overflowed its banks. And Raghunath Das Goswami was serving Sruptama Goswami, who was assisting in that. Then he was able to speak to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and reveal these very, very secret things, these very, very secret pastimes, the most intimate relationship that it is possible to have with Krishna. And this is Chaitanya Charitamrita is describing this. So in the 4th chapter of Adi Lila, the very intimate mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his internal mood, which caused him to come, Krishna himself, to come to this world, it is revealed. And it is very much, to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one has to understand Sri Radha and Krishna, especially the mood of Srimati Radharani and her love for Krishna, and then how Krishna reciprocates with that mood. To understand what real love is. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he differentiates, as our Prabhu Mukundadatta was explaining, that this is something from a different level. This is something that is the finest, the most subtle, the most refined, transcendental sentiments, and it has nothing to do with the material world at all, although the reflection of the love of the conjugal love in the spiritual world, it is here in the reflection, and it is so increasingly dominant in Kali Yuga. But the real thing, the love between Sri Radha and Krishna, which is the center of Vraja, which is the center of Golok Brindavan, it is the central relationship. And that is what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wants to explain to us, and then we'll understand. And then we'll understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if we understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we will understand his gift. And if we understand the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's giving us access, regardless of qualified or unqualified, he's giving us access to this most secret, most refined spiritual sentiment, and he's distributing it freely with the Panchatattva. He's giving it out freely through the holy names and through Katha. And if we understand the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more deeply we understand it, then we'll understand Srila Prabhupada and what his gift was and what he wanted us to take. He wanted us to take and achieve this. Not achieve it exactly, but gain it. And spread it. To taste it and to distribute it. This is his International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and a center of this, or one could even say the heart of this, is this temple, Krishna Balaram Mandir. So in this 4th chapter, to help us understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishnadas Kaviraj, and he states this directly, he explains about the love between Radha and Krishna, and he explains the mood of Radharani that so much captivates Krishna. And there are 2 verses, the 5th and the 6th verse of the 14 introductory verses from Adi 1 that specifically describe the mood or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's special gift of the mood of Srimati Radharani. So in describing this, in this 82nd verse, is it possible to make it smaller so we can actually see it? Okay. Okay. We can make it a little bit bigger. A little bit more. Just so we can see the verse itself. Yeah. Okay. So this verse, Govinda Nandini Radha. So Radharani is the one who gives pleasure to Govinda. And Govinda Mohini, she who mystifies Govinda. Her beauty, her love completely affects the consciousness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she controls him by that. Govinda Savasya. She is the be-all and end-all of Govinda. That means that she is everything to Govinda, to Krishna, to Shyamasundar. She is his life force. She is everything to him. And soon we're going to understand how she is, we've heard it already, so much of her qualities that Radharani has, that so much captivates the heart. Her love is so complete. It completely captivates the heart. She is everything for Krishna, who has everything. He is everything, not different from anything. And she's Sarva Kanta Shiromani. She is the crown jewel, or the topmost of all the gopis, of all the lovers of Krishna. It's Srimati Radharani who is the topmost. So here's Prabhupada's translation. Radha, maybe we can just go down. Yep. Radha is the one who gives pleasure to Govinda. And she is also the enchantress. She mystifies him. She controls Govinda. She is the be-all and end-all of Govinda and the crest jewel of all his consorts. Now, how should we, or do we, relate to Srimati Radharani? I once, and I have said this many times, I once dutifully attended a Rasa Leela presentation somewhere in Brindavan many years ago. And it was very beautifully done, very culturally excellent. And this is what it was about. There were the gopis, and there was Radha and Krishna sitting on a throne. And the gopis were performing dramas, natak, for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. So they were performing dramas about Krishna's pastimes with Radha, and it was so sweet and so wonderful. And this was to please Krishna and Radharani, who was sitting on a throne. And Srimati Radharani was so pleased with these dramas because they glorified the love of Radha and Krishna. She said, I will give you whatever you want. I will give you whatever you want for doing this. You've brought us so much pleasure. And then the gopis replied, give us Sham. This is not the Gaudiya Vedanta Siddhanta. This is not the philosophy. There is no Radhe Radhe Sham Malade. You give us Sham. That will be your mercy, O Radharani. No, and nor do we want to have the same qualities of Srimati Radharani. We want to serve their love. And this comes out very much in the teachings of Ramananda Roy, or when he's teaching Mahaprabhu, describing the mood of the gopis. It is servitude. The heart of it is serving the pleasure of Krishna, serving the pleasure of Radharani. Because it's Radharani who pleases Krishna. So serving Krishna means bringing them together as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, not trying to take the position of Srimati Radharani, not trying to put myself forward. Because she has all the qualities that will please Krishna. She is part of Krishna from the tattva point of view. It's Ladini Shakti Azmad. So the first thing, the prime thing, one has to learn if one somehow gets the fortune of the desire to be in Brindavan eternally and to serve there. And this is also brought out in the third canto when the four Kumaras go to Vaikuntha. And when they're going there, it's described how Tulsi, Vaikuntha is so beautiful, it has so many flowers. But all the flowers, they have agreed and accepted the position of Tulsi. Tulasi Devi is most pleasing to Krishna. So it is not them, they may be the most fragrant flowers, but it is Tulsi who is most pleasing to Krishna. And in the spiritual world, in Vaikuntha and in Goloka Vrindavan, everything is there, but there is no envy. This is the prime quality. There is no envy. Namatsaranam satam. So envy means I want to push someone down so I can come up. And in the spiritual world, there is no envy. There is only servitorship. So this is what Sri Advaita Charya, he is very much teaching. He's teaching servitorship. And even in the material world, see everything as Krishna's and everything to be used in Krishna's service. And he doesn't want to be the master. And Mahaprabhu treats him as a senior and a superior, and he doesn't want that. He wants to be chastised, because that's the position of a servant sometimes. He wants that for his improvement. That's his mood. So he's teaching servitorship, because that's the essential ingredient to go to Goloka Vrindavan. One has to get it really clear. Gopi Bharta Parakamale, oh, dasa, dasana, 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 das. Jivera Surupoi Krishnel Nityadas. This is who we are constitutionally, our actual position. We are servants. And this is the last thing that a living entity in the material world wants to do, is to be a servant. Everyone is upwardly mobile to become a master and control. Ishwaraham, Aham Bhogi, Siddhaham, Balavan Sukhi. So somehow or another, we want as our primary goal because we have a long-term goal to be with Krishna and Goloka Brindavan, but we also need primary goals that we have to achieve in order to achieve that. And that primary goal is to become a servant, servant of a servant of a servant of a servant of Krishna. Gopi Bhatta Parak. And this is what Mahaprabhu, in his mood in Rath Yatra, this is what he's talking about. This was the prime mood. There's such depth there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But the prime thing is, I want to become a servant. He's announcing, this is the doorway, I'm a servant. And therefore to be in a position of master, even in the Krishna consciousness movement, is so difficult. Because there's always a tendency, yes, I'm a master. But one can take any position in the mood of being a servant. So that has to come so deeply in our heart that I'm only a servant. I'm a servant, I'm a servant, I'm a servant, and who am I a servant of? Practically speaking, I'm a servant of everyone. And this is what happens when you become a master. You have to serve everyone. So we want to become, we serve the servants of Srimati Radharani. And then if she becomes pleased, as Prabhu was speaking about, then our path is very, very easy. So Prabhupada translated this verse, this Govinda Nandini one. Radha is the one who gives pleasure to Govinda. It is Srimati Radharani who gives pleasure to Govinda. And she is also the enchantress. She mystifies him. She controls him of Govinda. She is the be-all and end-all of Govinda. She is everything to him because her love is so complete. It is so pure. She completely captures him by her love. The all-powerful Napareham becomes controlled by her love because of the depth, the intensity. She doesn't want anything for herself. There's so many pastimes at this level. When Krishna enters the waters of the Jamuna to rescue Nanda Maharaj after the Varuna Dutas have taken him, Srila Kavi Kanapur describes how Radharani faints. Because not only is Nanda Maharaj entered, and it appears that he has drowned, but it appears that Krishna has drowned. And she faints. And to bring her back to life, there's only one thing. The gopis keep telling her, Krishna is right here, he's right here in front of you. And she wakes up for a moment and sees that Krishna is not there. And she faints again. They keep bringing her back to life because Krishna is everything. Krishna is everything for her, and therefore she can control Krishna. Krishna becomes conquered. And this verse will be described later by Kaviraj Goswami later in that chapter. There's Napare Aham Niravadya. Next verse. What's the next word? Niravadya Samhitam. No, Samhitam. Does anyone know? But that means you've conquered me because your love has no duplicity in it. It has no hypocrisy in it. When I read that in preparation for this class, it was so embarrassing that our offerings, our gifts, our bhakti has no duplicity in it, no hypocrisy in it. It's all for you. I've done this simply for you and your pleasure. That's the love. Anyabhilasita Satyam Jnana Kamana Vrita. in Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami describes that it's only this kind of pure bhakti that sadhana bhakti, nididasya prakatam riddhi sanyata. It is only pure bhakti, not misra bhakti, that will give rise to bhava bhakti, which is the premankor, the seed of prema. So the qualities of Srimati Radharani and the qualities of the other residents of Brindavan and the qualities of exalted devotees, they bring this to our mind, that this is such a high platform, and look at my position. And this is why the greatest devotees, we read, and Prabhupada would often quote Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj saying that if you chant my name, you'll go to hell, and I'm like a worm in stool. Now, how is it possible for this exalted devotee, or Srila Rupa Goswami, or Sanatana Goswami, they're the most humble, or Srila Prabhupada, so humble. How is it possible for these exalted souls to be so humble at the same time? It's because that humility, this is the natural consciousness when one is in the presence of Krishna. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually says that actual humility comes from, does anyone happen to know? Yes, but he says specifically it comes from offenseless chanting. Otherwise, we learn how to make believe we're humble, but inside some chalu-ness goes on, something for me. So the next verse is one that Kaviraj Goswami, he doesn't explain that Govinda verse, but he explains this verse in very, very carefully. So we understand the qualities of Srimati Radharani. So everyone say it together. Devi Krishnamai Prokta Radhika Paradevita Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Kanti Sammohini Para. So Kaviraj Goswami is going to explain it, these qualities of Radharani, because she is Devi, because one of Krishna's names is Deva also, which doesn't, in Krishna's case, it doesn't mean who is a devata, a demigod. It means effulgent, very effulgent. And so Srimati Radharani being Devi is so effulgent and so beautiful. Prabhupada in his word by words, he translates it as she who shines effulgence brilliantly. Just as Krishna, when he walks through the forests of Brindavan, his effulgence illuminates, his sapphire, blue sapphire-like effulgence illuminates the forest. And his fragrance he leaves behind. The gopis and the Brijbasis, they can tell when Krishna has been somewhere because his fragrance is still there, remains behind. And his effulgence illuminates. And then she's also Krishnamayi. Means, and Prokta means she's called Krishnamayi, means this is what's inside of her. She's completely filled with Krishna. Everywhere she looks, she only sees Krishna. Every thought she has is only of Krishna. And it's completely natural for her. It's completely natural for her because, and I heard Prabhupada explain this in a lecture that I heard this morning. And it was so interesting. I was listening to a lecture in 1969, Prabhupada speaking on Radhastami. to the devotees in London. And he's going to explain Radhastami to devotees who don't know anything about Krishna, practically speaking. 1969. And so he has to explain so much before he can even speak about Radharani. So he's trying to explain how Radharani is Krishnamaya and how it's natural. It's not at all forced. It's completely natural. And he says, just like when you see the shoe of your child. So you're seeing a shoe. And you're not a devotee of shoes, but you become happy to see the shoe of your child because that immediately brings into mind the child who you love. So Srimati Radharani, and we saw this in relationship to Srila Prabhupada, he would see everything in relationship to Krishna. One time in Japan, there was some talk about money. And I said to Prabhupada, we're not interested in money. And he became so angry at me. And I said, no, Prabhupada. I tried to make my excuses. That what I really meant was that, but he was angry because without finances, without Lakshmi Devi's blessings, without money, you can't do the service of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. So he was seeing money as nothing like something that's selfish. This is Krishna's money. It should be returned to Krishna, used in his service. He saw big buildings in New York City, and he would just see them and think, oh, what kind of temple could this be? And Srimati Radharani, everything that she sees, it's only Krishna that she's seeing. And she's Krishnamaya. She sees, Prabhupada is translated as none different from Lord Krishna. So that's explained also. Later Kaviraj Goswami will say that one who's within and without are Lord Krishna. Inside there is not the bit of duplicity. It's all about Krishna's pleasure. And Kaviraj Goswami will explain later that even when the gopis are looking in the mirror and dressing themselves and putting on this makeup and that makeup and straightening this and straightening that, and it's just thinking, how will Krishna be pleased? Not artificially, and not thinking, oh, I'm supposed to think like this, but this is love. Swabhavika, it is natural. So to develop that natural love for Krishna is the process, and part of the process. Or excuse me, it's the goal. And Prabhupada sometimes would say, yes, it's proper to have that as a goal, but one should also understand one's own position. So that's the second part of the process, is some introspection to understand my own lack of qualification and how much duplicity and hypocrisy and selfishness is in my heart, and yet still have to serve because I'm Krishna's servant. So these two seem contradictory. But they're resolved in devotional service by the quality called humility. That I'm so, as Kaviraj Goswami, I'm worse than a worm in stool. But yet, by the mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas, by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, Krishna Balaram, this is the best I can do now. Please accept this. There's so much selfishness, so much swarta. Swarta means what? Swarta, Hindi, English. Self-interest. It's about me. But please, somehow or another, by your mercy, please accept this offering. Without your mercy, I'm hopeless. So these 2 points, the desire and the humility, the hopelessness without mercy, this is where the magic of devotional service takes place. The sincerity of devotional service will always bring a proper result. Sometimes I've noted that I'll go in front of the deities and I'll pray and pray, but it lacks real sincerity, real urgency. Or I'll chant and chant and chant for 50 years, 55 years, but it lacks the urgency, in my case. Calling out to Krishna, as Prabhupada said, like a baby calling out for mother. That's why there are probably no little babies here now, because when the baby cries, everyone's consciousness must go there, because it's so powerful when the baby really cries for mother. So when we can learn to chant the names of Krishna and Srimati Radharani, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, with that urgency, then the results come, I would say, immediately. Krishna hears that. So that I've found in my own case, the difference between my superficial prayers and when I'm in real need. Krishna reciprocates in his own way, of course, but he reciprocates differently. So, and that's why this is the value of the sannyas ashram, but it's for everyone, regardless of one's ashram. When Mahaprabhu is traveling in South India, Kaviraj Goswami makes the point 2 different times that he's chanting Krishna, 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 Hey Krishna, Rakshamam, Rama, Raghava, Pahimam, Rakshamam, protect me. To always keep oneself under the protection of Krishna. Although we may have so many gifts from Krishna, so much influence, so much wealth, so much beauty, so much intelligence, they are only gifts. And in a moment, everything, strength, in a moment, everything could be taken away. So the dependence of the devotee is on Krishna. And to keep oneself in that mood, the humility of keeping oneself in that mood is with the goal in mind, is the art of Krishna consciousness, or part of the art of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna Mai, she's only filled, Radharani is just with thoughts of Krishna, and the absence of Krishna for a moment. The gopis even criticize the blinking of their eyes. Sometimes I noticed when Prabhu was giving class that the screen would go out for half a moment. So I was thinking that's Namashena, the blinking of the eyes. Did anyone think, oh, the verse is gone, this wonderful verse by Prabodhananda Saraswati is gone for half a moment, I can't tolerate it. But the blinking of the eyes was intolerable. Can we even imagine what love for Krishna is? The complete giving of oneself to Krishna in such a way that the blinking of the eyes is intolerable. And therefore she's called Radhika. Devi Krishnamayi Prokta, she's called Krishnamayi, and she's also called Radhika. And Radhika means the best of all worshippers. Anayo aradhito nunam. Because when Krishna left, Srimati Radharani during the rasa dance, the one in Vamsivat in the Sarat season, that Krishna was dancing with the gopis. And one Krishna was dancing with Sri Radha, and then between 2 gopis was one Krishna. So Srimati Radharani, so there were so many gopis, but in between every 2 was Krishna. But in the middle was Krishna dancing with Srimati. So he was giving special attention to Srimati Radharani. But she decided this was insufficient. So she left the rasa dance in anger. This is called man. I don't want to have anything. I've given everything to him, and he's dancing with so many who are not on an equal level with me. So there's two kinds of anger described in Shastra on this transcendental level. Haitaki and ahaitaki, with cause and no cause. So this was with a cause. So she went away. And without Radha there, Krishna could not enjoy the rasa dance. So he left to find Srimati Radharani, because there is no enjoyment for Krishna even, who is Purushottama, the supreme enjoyer. There's no enjoyment without Sri Radha. So he went, and then Krishna was absent from the rasa dance. So the gopis, all the other gopis who were dancing with Krishna one moment, and suddenly he disappears. So they look for him. They're looking everywhere for him. So this is described in the 32nd chapter, or the 30th chapter rather, of 10th canto. They're looking for Krishna. But there's one point where Krishna finds Srimati Radharani, and she's in the mood of man, or angry at Krishna. So the way that usually goes, and Krishna's in the mood of, what did I do wrong? Please, I'm here with you alone. And so he's being submissive to her, and she's pushing him away because she's angry. So this creates rasa. Rasa is generated in this way. And this way, Krishna is relishing the depth of her love, and she's relishing the sweetness of the exchange. But then, as the Bhagavatam describes, her mood changes. She sees she's caught him. And her mood, so we can only describe it in my own material words. But this is all on a different platform. There's not the slightest trace of lust or selfishness. And here I am with consciousness that's glued to the material world, and have only material concepts of what these exchanges must be like. And I'm seeing everything through that filter of my own consciousness, and therefore cannot gain access to really what's going on. And therefore the first 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam are there to purify our consciousness. And so much purification is required, and so much humility is required, and so much desire is required. So much being aware of one's lack of qualifications is desired, and to be calling out to Krishna constantly while we chant, because the desire is there and the qualification isn't there. But yet these pastimes take place, and Kaviraj Goswami even says this, that these things are so secret that they shouldn't be spoken about or even thought about unless one's on the transcendental platform. So therefore Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur were very careful about speaking about these topics. But Krishnadas Kaviraj says, I'm going to speak about them because I'm establishing Siddhanta. This is the goal. And those who are qualified will understand it. And those who are not qualified, even though I'm speaking about it directly, their concepts will bring them to the material level, and they won't understand. And he says, this makes me very happy, because I'm saying it but not saying it at the same time. So when Krishna approaches Radharani, and then she becomes submissive. Krishna's in a submissive mood, and then she becomes submissive. And then Krishna and Vishwanath, and then Krishna says, okay, she says, I'm tired now. You just take me wherever you want. So she's submissive to his desires. and Krishna's already submissive. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains several different reasons why Krishna disappears at this time. He says, please come to just go on my shoulder and I'll take you. But then he disappears. And then Srimati Radharani is left without him. The blinking of her eyes causes the greatest anxiety. Krishna entering the waters of the Jamuna to rescue Nanda Maharaj. And she thinks that it looks like he's drowned and she has no life left. And that he's disappeared from her. And her lamentation is so heavy. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains 3 reasons, if I remember correctly, for why Krishna disappeared. The first reason is that she became submissive and rasa cannot take place unless there is churning. So she's in man and he's submissive, and then there's rasa. But if she's submissive and he's submissive, then there's no rasa, there's no enjoyment. So this explains Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in one of his comments in Chaitanya Bhagavata. He explains this is why Shanta rasa is not considered a rasa, because there's no churning. It's all shanti, shanti, shanti. And that's, sometimes I think that's really what most of us, or me, want a little bit in life, freedom from the distress of it all. Some little Shanta rasa every now and then might be helpful. But no, the churning, and especially in Brindavan, there's no question of any Shanta rasa. Krishna is always, well, Prabhupada once put it in an interesting way. So one of the devotees said to Prabhupada something like, this is your place, this is Brindavan. And he said, no, Brindavan is for Goswamis, and I am Godas. Because Brindavan is the land of this higher place. And we try to be here I try to be here bringing my false ego and desires here, and there's an incompatibility. So Brindavan pushes on that incompatibility, and therefore it's so intense, but it's so sweet, but yet it's so intense. It's so sweet, you can't leave, and it's so intense, you want to leave because it's so heavy and intense, but you can't leave because of the sweetness. Kaviraj Goswami calls prema bhakti like drinking hot sugarcane juice. It's so hot you can't drink it. It's so sweet you can't not drink it. So Krishna disappears. One reason is the rasa is it's not working. So then she's in lamentation. Second reason is that all the gopis are there and they come running. And they see the depth of Radharani's love for Krishna as it's manifested in separation. And then they understand Radharani's position like a great fire as opposed to a lamp. She's completely devastated. The gopis have to take a cotton swab and place it by her nose because there's no life symptoms, just by the moving of that little cotton that they know that she's alive, missing Krishna. So that's the second reason. He wants the gopis to see the love, why she's the topmost of all the gopis, and why Krishna can't enjoy it. And of course, they're ultimately, from the tattva point of view, they're all expansions of Srimati Radharani. And the third reason is that they were in separation, and they were thinking, oh, Radharani's so, Radhito, she's the best worshipper. So for the rasa dance to take place, they all have to be in the same mood. So Krishna wanted to place everyone in the mood of separation. So then, therefore, it made a harmony amongst all the different groups of devotees. So Radhika Paradevita. She is, people go to the devatas to gain something. But she is the Paradevita. She is the most worshipable. They worship the devatas. The Prabhupada once said that we are actually the real Shaktas, the real worshippers of the energy of the Lord. So she is the Radhika, the supreme worshipper, who is the Paradevita. So on this day, and there's another lecture in London that Prabhupada gave, where he said that, this was later, he said to the devotees, if you want to offer something to Krishna, don't offer it directly to Krishna. If you have a flower, you put it, you offer it in the hand of Srimati Radharani and say, please offer this to your Krishna. And Srimati Radharani, who's that, as Kundadatta Prabhu was saying, is an ocean of affection, motherly affection to her servitors, and an ocean of compassion. And Prabhupada said that she's also the ocean of humility. So she, Prabhupada explained, says to Krishna, oh Krishna, your devotee has given this flower just for you. And this devotee is a better devotee than me. So please accept this from this devotee. So Prabhupada was saying that if you want to offer something to Krishna, you offer it through Sri Radha. So, what do you think of that? Yeah, what do you think of that? Today is the day, but what do you think of that? What do you think of that, what I just said? Were you? So how does one please Radharani? One has to know these things. Because it has to be, well, anyway, you know. This is the meditation of a devotee. We think about so many things. How can I please Krishna, Radharani, through the disciplic succession, Vaishnavas? This is a meditation. How can I please others? This is the opposite of the way my mind works. It's usually, how can I please me? So that mood will keep me in the material world forever. Because I'm thinking I'm the center, and I'm the one who has to be pleased. Yes. So this is the meditation of a devotee. What can I do to please Krishna, Srimati Radharani, Srila Prabhupada, Gaur Nitai, Krishna Balaram, and the devotees? To be in a mood of serving all the devotees. So wonderful. So today is the day. She is Paradevata. What's your name, by the way? Abhimanyu. You are fearless. And Sarva Lakshmi, and she is the origin of all the Lakshmis, of all the lovers of Krishna, are all expansions of her, the goddesses of fortune, the queens, the gopis, they're all expansions of Radharani. And Sarvakanti, that she is the most beautiful and the most enchanting and the sweetest of all. Sarvakanti. All splendor. How do you say splendor in Hindi? Anyone? Splendor means beauty and everything that is wonderful. Chamatkar, everything that is wonderful and astounding in a positive way. She has an ocean of it. So what's the Hindi word? Okay, well, everyone has to pull out their mobile phones. Okay. Google, Maharaj, ChatGPT. Okay, never mind, forget it. Otherwise you'll be caught. Huh?
Saying Ati Uttam.
Ati Uttam. Very best, topmost. Thank you. Is this answer come from Google Maharaj or where? Okay. And then Samohini Para, she's the supreme enchantress of Krishna. Her beauty, her activities, they completely bewilder Krishna. He's so captivated by her love. And she's Ladini Shakti, his internal energy. Okay, we'll end on time, but we have 2 minutes. Anyone have 1 minute? We can have 2 1-minute questions, or 1 2-minute question, or 4 30-second questions. Anyone have any quick questions? Yes? There were 3. Oh, so you want the other 2? Oh, yes. One was that he wanted to show that the depth of Radharani's love. He wanted the other gopis to see that. And the third one, that everyone had to be in the mood of separation, to be in an equal mood of separation for everyone to participate in the rasa dance amongst equals without any competition or anything like that. Clear? Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
Please Krishna, we want to go to Radharani. And please Radharani, what
Huh?
Please Krishna, we have to go through Srimati Radharani.
Do you really want to please Krishna? You really want to please Radharani?
His question is that
No, I know what his question is, but I want him to know what my question is. So unmixed desire.
unmixed desire.
Yes? You really want to? Because sometimes I ask the devotees, what do you want? And everyone knows the right answer. Krishna Prem, Haribol. And then I ask them, well, what do you really want? And then, what does he mean by that? So anyway, we won't get into a counseling session or anything like that, but if you want to, there are so many. Do you live in Brindavan? Do you live here? Outside, where? Bangalore, south. How long will you be here? And how much longer will you stay? Oh, Prabhu. Say Hare Krishna purely. So, do any of the devotees know you? You've been here for 2 months? Do you know a few devotees who live here? The devotees who know you, you should ask them, how could I please Srimati Radharani and Krishna? Because they're pleased when the devotees are pleased. So if you ask, right now you think of a devotee who you know and you trust. Can you think of one? Huh? Yeah, so you ask the devotee. Because he knows you. Because this is the first time I have the fortune of seeing you. Last question. Yes, Boo. Seems. It's a little hard for me to understand. Because, yes, perhaps I didn't answer it clearly. My understanding is that it is the natural consciousness of a soul who's in the presence of Krishna to be humble. Because after all, we're tiny and insignificant, and he's unlimitedly great, and nothing is separate from him. So it's just natural to be humble. See, tonight after the sun goes down and the lights are, we just look up and see the stars in the sky, to confront how great existence is. And me, false ego, thinking myself so important, so great, but reality is so vast and I'm so insignificant. So when one that's just seeing the stars in the sky or looking at the ocean. What to speak of seeing Krishna? One naturally becomes, it's the natural consciousness of an insignificant soul. Well, there's different levels of pure devotees, but exalted devotees, pure devotee is especially Uttama, always in the presence of Krishna, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. So he's the most humble. We saw that with Prabhupada. He was so servant of his Guru Maharaj. And sometimes in his humility he was like a lion, but he was humble. Because always a servant. We can never be anything but a servant. And it takes humility to be a servant. Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Srimati Radharani, Sri Samasunda ki jai, Krishna Balarama ki jai, Sri Gaunata ki jai, Lilitu Sakal, Samasunda Radharani ki jai, Nitya Gaur Premanandi Hare Diva.